Hello, and welcome to the Complete Podcast Network. I'm Anthony Wilson, recording from Los Angeles, California. Um, Week 6 in the NFL concluded last night with two games of Monday Night Football. We had the Falcons beating the Bills in Atlanta. The final score was 24-14, so the Bills now have lost two straight. And then in the other game, we had the Bears going into Washington, D.C. and beating the Commanders 25-24 on a field goal as time expired. I'll get to the rest of the games from last week in a minute, but I want to start with this. I guess you could call it an MVP debate. It's really still kind of early to even be talking about NFL MVP, um, but people are talking about it, and I know that Patrick Mahomes is now the betting favorite in Las Vegas. But I think most people, most common people that I've seen, feel like Baker Mayfield. If they were to give the award out right now, he'd be the guy who most deserves it. And I couldn't agree more. Has the Bucks at 5-1, uh, and that's despite Mike Evans. Mike Evans only played in three games, and Chris Godwin has played in only two. Of course, the rookie Ekbuka from Ohio State, one of the latest great, the latest great Ohio State receiver, is having a huge year. But he got hurt yesterday, and still Tampa Bay was able to win that game at home against the 49ers. But that was the first game that they won. They're 5-1. That was the first game that they won that didn't come down to they didn't require a last a game-winning drive. They beat the Niners 30-19. All the other games had to either score a touchdown or kick a field goal to win the game at the end. Obviously, Baker Mayfield is the guy leading them down the field. Um, so I think based on that and based on the fact that he's tied for third in touchdown passes, he's um, either fourth or sixth in yards per game. Fourth if you don't count Mac Jones and Brock Purdy, who they've split time there. Mac started 4 games, Brock started 2. Yeah, so either fourth or sixth in yards per game, depending on that. And then he's also sixth in quarterback rating. So you're ranking pretty high. It's been it's a lot of quarterbacks having some really good years. Guys either lighting it up or just being like really efficient. You know, um, so yeah, it's been a lot of good quarterback play, and he's been right up there at the top, and he's I mean, he's won games for them at the end. You know, having to lead them down the field to win. Um, Mahomes is playing well, so he leads the league in total touchdowns and in total yards. But I mean, it's just like it's marginal. I don't know why he's the betting favorite. I guess people are projecting that the Chiefs are only 3-3. I guess people are projecting that they're just going to keep getting better, and I can see why. Uh, they would think that because they're getting healthier. They looked good 2 weeks ago against the Ravens, and they had a hiccup last week against the Jaguars. But they, on Sunday night against the Lions, they're able to get back on track. And then getting Rashay Rice back, he served his 6-game suspension now, so he'll be back in the next game. So, um, but I think it's going to come down. Of course, the record always matters. You know, wins matter as much, if not more, than just putting up big numbers. So if the Chiefs, let's say the Chiefs go 10-7, but Baker takes the Bucks to 12-5 or 13-4. If they have similar numbers, which they do right now, Baker would probably have to get the edge there. Jared Goff, I think, has been the best quarterback overall. I think he leads the league in right now in quarterback rating. Uh, he's just been amazing. I mean, really, what an amazing career that he's putting together now after the Rams decided that they didn't want him. And he's just been so good for Detroit. He's had a hell of a career, man. Really efficient career. And then I want to give a shout out also to my boy Sam Darnold, proving once again, I keep saying he was not a 1 year wonder. Right now he's third in quarterback rating. Actually has a higher quarterback rating than he had last year. He's also third in passing yards and tied for fourth in touchdown pass. The Seahawks are 4-2 after beating who did they beat? They beat the Jaguars on Sunday. So he continues to play well. I said he was third. I think so. I was looking to get this from the ESPN, their statistics, the rankings of the NFL leaders. They had Lamar one, but Lamar has missed a couple games now. So uh, really, I guess Goff is second, and Sam is third. But yeah, it's been a lot of good quarterback. It's been a lot of good quarterback play around the league. So that's probably I would have to go right now. I would have to go Baker one, um, because of how well he's played. Uh, the only other 5-1 team in the league is Indianapolis, and Daniel Jones has been very good, but um, not. He has 8 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He's played really well, but not quite the big counting stats so much as some of the other guys. Of course, Dak Prescott has been great also, but the Cowboys lost to the Panthers on Sunday. So, and Aaron Rodgers quietly on the Steelers are 4-1. He has 10 touchdowns, 3 picks. Uh, he's playing really well. So there's a lot of guys who are going to be in that discussion. Um, I'll go through all the games now one by one. So it's week 6 started on Thursday. Uh, Giants doubled up on the Eagles, 34-17. I said at the time that because Malik Neighbors tore his ACL, then they made Jackson Dart the starter. I said, well, when Jackson Dart is your starter, you don't really need Malik Neighbors because Jackson Dart is more of a like a dual threat quarterback. And they have this Cam Scatterbo guy out of Arizona State, who he reminds me of Peyton Hillis. Remember Peyton Hillis for the Browns, who had to cover Matt that year. You can't look at him and go like he shouldn't be doing this in the NFL. But right now, he's playing well. He has 5 touchdowns already. Uh, you know, so good for the Giants, man. And as far as the Eagles, I don't know what to tell you. I guess it just happens, right? It's like the axiom, the proverb, any given Sunday, it still holds up. You know, you don't see, even though the game happened on Thursday, but you don't really see that anymore. Like it's like there's so much parity in the league that you're never really shocked by an outcome anymore. But seeing the Giants double up on the Eagles, that was surprising for sure. And on Sunday, start off with the London game. The Broncos beat the Jets 13 to 11, so the Broncos are 4-2 now. The Jets are terrible; they're 0-6. Had -10 net passing yards. The Jets did on Sunday. Justin Fields was 9-17 for 45 yards. You know, so I don't know. The Steelers beat the Browns 23-9. Talking about the Steelers, they're 4-1. The Chargers beat the Dolphins 29-27. The Chargers damn near lost 3 straight. They were able to come back and kick a field goal at the end to win that game. The Patriots are 4-2. They beat the Saints 25-19. Young Drake May, continues to impress. He had 3 touchdown passes. So right now he has 10 touchdown passes and 2 interceptions through the first 6 games for them. Yeah, man, they. It's really. I'm sitting here looking at this his picture on the ESPN app, and damn near almost looks like Tom Brady. You know, they list him at 6'4". I don't. He doesn't seem as big as Brady did, but I just like the way he plays. And the way the Patriots play is like that vintage, uh, style of play. It kind of reminds me of like the early Patriots teams that Vrabel played for. And obviously Vrabel is the coach now. So they're just back to being smart, playing smart, uh, out coaching teams. You know, how to say it, the sum is greater than the whole of their parts. And they have a good young quarterback. They have, and then Stephon Diggs is, he's still a really good receiver. But they're just making it happen, and you got to think they're only going to get better as the season goes on. The Rams beat the Ravens 17-3, so the Ravens continue their season from hell. The Rams go to 4-2. Ravens go to 1 and Ravens are now 1-5. The Colts beat the Cardinals. I mentioned the Colts are 5-1. Danny Dimes continues to play well. The Cardinals have lost. Is that 4 straight the Cardinals have lost now? No, not 4 straight, but it is 4 straight that the Cardinals have lost. And Jacoby Brissett started for them. Kyler Murray was out. And you had the Seahawks. They beat the Jaguars 20-12. I mentioned my man Sam Darnold continued to play well. He threw for 295 yards in that one. The Panthers, I mentioned them. They beat the Cowboys. The Panthers are now 3-3. So hey, what do you know? Bryce Young, good for him. The Raiders finally got back on track after a 4-game losing streak. They beat the Titans in Las Vegas 20-10. Talk about the Buccaneers beating the Niners. The Packers beat the Bengals 27-18. So the Packers are 3-1-1 now. And then the Chiefs beat the Lions 30-17. So yeah, that was week 6 in the NFL. In the college game, biggest story coming out of the weekend is Penn State fired James Franklin after they fell to 3-3 with a loss to Northwestern. Drew Allard suffered a season-ending injury, and man, yeah, James Franklin. They finally. I shouldn't say. I say finally because he's been there for so long. But I didn't think he really deserved to be fired, or that they ever would fire him. Obviously Penn State, they have a great tradition that Joe Paterno established. And James Franklin, he coached well for them. He won 70% of his games over 12 years at Penn State. Only 6-6 in bowl games. His buyout $49 million. I remember last year Penn State went to the semifinals of the college football playoff, and that had been the knock on James Franklin, is not having a playoff win. And I remember somebody saying, like, there's too many teams in the college football playoff when James Franklin is winning college football playoff games, right? Which is harsh. And I remember Paul Feinbaum saying this year that Penn State came in like or top 2. I remember what they were. I remember when Joe Klatt did his way too early top 25. He had the number 1. So and I remember Paul Feinbaum said that James Franklin will find a way to mess it up. So well, he might have said Penn State will, but either way, Penn State is a reflection of James Franklin. So or were. But I think it's just the fact that they had such high hopes, and then it just went so poorly that they just decided, okay, now is the time, because they always wanted more. They wanted more. They wanted to be up there with the teams that they were, under Joe Pa in his prime. Penn State was a program that was as good as any other. They haven't really quite been able to get there. To that level of Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia. They really haven't been able to get to that, reach that plateau under James Franklin, and I think they just finally decided that this is the time. I saw Sue Cravens, the former USC Trojan, said that UCLA should target James Franklin. And basically, I just think that James Franklin he's too good for UCLA, right? He's like, I can get a better job than a UCLA job. I talked about UCLA before. They just don't have. It's not like they can't get big time recruits. They can, Dante Moore, who transferred, now he's at Oregon, who I think I jinxed when I said that he was the Heisman front runner. He was a 5-star recruit. He started off at UCLA. Josh Rosen was a 5-star recruit. They can get good players, but they can't stack the roster with big time talent, top to bottom, the way a top program, like a really elite program can. It's kind of like USC, right? Historically, USC is a football program, right, and not a basketball program. Just like UCLA historically, they're a basketball program, but not really a football program like that, right? But USC's been able to do, retracting. If you go back the last 20 years, able to get starting with O.J. Mayo, Nick Young, Taj Gibson, DeMar DeRozan, Nick Vucevic, and on down the line. And now they get, a team that, regularly gets, 5-star guys to go there. But it's not like, even now, and I remember when Gilbert Arenas, they were doing a live show of his podcast, and they were backstage. Baron Davis was back there with them. And he was saying, basically saying, how is USC getting these 5-star recruits now? And it used to be that, UCLA is supposed to be the basketball, team that, the top basketball recruits, in LA, California go to. And Arenas was saying that because their coach, Mick Cronin, is a more of a like a taskmaster, whereas at USC, they kind of it attracts kids who want to come and basically just have a good time and do what they want to do. So I think there's that. There's but I don't know how UCLA can basically turn the tables in their favor in terms of football in that same way. They're not going to be able to, because they're not going to be able to stack the whole roster. They've never been able to. They had Troy Aikman. They had Kenny Norton Jr. They had Maurice Jones-Drew. They had these type of players, but it's like a player, a guy here, a guy there, right? Um, it's not something that they're able to consistently do, and like build a team full of guys like that, which is what you have to do to compete at the highest level in college football. And so I don't know. I mean, maybe James Franklin, if he went there, he could do it. Maybe he could come out here. California is so rich in talent. He could go. But the thing about it is that the odds would be stacked against him, and he could probably just get a better job. You know. But yeah, it's fascinating. And just to go back to that basketball thing, it's like, yeah, one year, like even the year that USC had Evan Mobley was probably the best player to ever play for USC. Nothing against DeMar DeRozan, but Evan Mobley probably. Oh, no wait, but what about no, yes, but Paul Westphal went to USC too. I think there was a couple others too. Who I missed. I was way. I mean, like in the modern era, I'm saying last 25 years. Probably Evan Mobley, the best player, best player to ever play for USC in basketball. Um, but even that year when they made the Elite Eight, I think that's the furthest that USC has ever gone, at least in my lifetime. When they made the Elite Eight. Yeah, I mean UCLA made the Final Four the same year with with Jaime Jaquez and some guys who, you know, I mean Jaime Jaquez is good. I like him. I know he just got traded this summer, I think, but he's not. He's no Evan Mobley. So even when like USC was able to get Bronny, they were able to get Isaiah Collier, but UCLA doesn't really get kids like that anymore. But UCLA overall is still really like the better program. It just is what it is, right? Like USC's roster will be more probably 1 through 12. They'll have better players, even if USC, their top three guys are maybe are like or higher rated coming out of high school, you know. And so I think it's like the same thing in reverse though with the football, right? For every uh, Josh Rosen, for every Dante Moore, uh, it's like USC will have five guys like that, you know. So it's just and more talented players, more 4 star, more talented players throughout their roster. So it's just hard to come out here and do that at UCLA. All right, so and speaking of USC, uh, they played Michigan on Saturday, uh, and they beat them 31-13. Uh, it was a game where the top 3 running backs between the two rosters exited with injuries in the first half. Justice Haynes, one of the best backs in the nation, Wayman Jordan for USC, another one of the best backs in the nation, and then also Jordan's backup, Eli Sanders. And they all got injured in the first half. And then basically what it came down to was USC's third string running back, King Miller, a true freshman walk-on. He had 18 carries, 158 yards, and a touchdown. So basically, USC's third string running back was better than whoever backups Michigan had. And now USC, they moved up to 20 in the rankings. They'll play number 13 Notre Dame this week in South Bend. So that's going to be a tough one for SC. I know Notre Dame is, I think, an 8.5-point favorite. So that tells you something right there about how people are feeling about it. Obviously, they have Jeremiah Love. They got a good quarterback. USC, Michigan, that quarterback they had, the freshman Underwood, he looks like a pretty good player, but he's inexperienced. USC have a much more experienced team, more well-rounded. Obviously Mekhi Lemon, who had another good game, Jacoby Lane. That's one of the best, if not the best, 1-2 punch wide receiver in the country. Two guys we're going to go. Mekhi Lemon will for sure be a first-round pick, maybe the first receiver taken. Jacoby Lane should go in the first 2 rounds as well. And they have Mayava. They have Lincoln Riley, really more experience as a coach than Jerome Moore. They should have beaten Michigan. Now, Notre Dame lost their first 2 games of the season, but they won 4 straight. They have Jeremiah Love. Like I said, they have a good quarterback. Marcus Freeman last year took them to the national championship game, and they competed with Ohio State. They made a game on that thing late. But, so yeah, I can see why Notre Dame is the favorite. Last year they came in here into the Coliseum and took care of business. But USC was in the game. Um, USC has pretty much been in all the games since Lincoln Riley has been here. They haven't been able to close some of the games. We saw that a few weeks ago, um, against Illinois, uh, where they had a lead late and couldn't hold it. It was like a minute 55 seconds left. They have too much time on the clock for Illinois to come down and win that game there on a field goal at the end. But that's when USC's only hiccup so far. We have to see what they do against Notre Dame. Maybe they can get their revenge. My was only thrown 2 picks this season, but that one he threw on Saturday, that wasn't good. But I don't know what he was seeing and what he was throwing the ball to. There was nobody. There was no USC players around. He just threw the ball right to Michigan defensive back. So you can't go on the road at Notre Dame and make too many mistakes. USC was able to make a few mistakes against Michigan and win. I don't know if they're gonna be able to do that against Notre Dame. But we'll just have to see what happens. You know, it'd be nice to get hopefully Wayman Jordan and Eli. If they don't play, King Miller played great, but again, now you're going on the road at Notre Dame, who's won 4 straight. So, we need those guys. We need all hands on deck for that game. And just to kind of stay on the topic of USC, but also switch. I noticed that, bro, USC, man, right now, the guys they have in the league are, this is the best group they call them Trojans, right? USC Trojans in the NFL. It's the best group of Trojans in the NFL in a long time, man. Drake London, who had a huge game last night, 10 catches for 158 yards. He and St. Brown were both top 5 in the league in receiving last year, and they're going to be right there again this year. Michael Pittman, the leading receiver for the Colts. Juju, who's having a kind of a renaissance. Pat Mahomes reviving his career again. Jordan Addison, when he's out there, is damn good. He only played 1 year at USC, but still, it's not where you start; it's where you finish. Yeah, bro. And he got. Of course, Sam Darnold, who I mentioned, is proven that he wasn't a 1-year wonder. And then the defensive players. Hufanga, he's with the Broncos, now having a great year. Uchenna Nwosu having a great year. Tuliopo has 5 sacks. Leonard Williams, one of the best defensive linemen in the league. Dory's still hanging on. People are starting to, notice Woody Marks. Somebody else to travel. Caleb Williams is having Bears have won 3 straight now. Kalen Bullock and Kai Blackman. It's a pretty deep collection of guys, and really, it's the best. It's that's I always say it's the most ironic thing about the Pete Carroll era is that as much success as they had, he won 84% of his games at USC or something like that. Really the guy, and they put all these first and second round picks and guys in the league, but it really wasn't. There were a lot of them were hit or miss. It's really only a handful of guys who were Pro Bowl, or all pro type players. You're talking like Tyron Smith, obviously, likely future Hall of Famer. Everson Griffin, Ryan Khalil, obviously Clay Matthews, who, if he had been any better, would have been a Hall of Famer. And when they put guys in the Hall of Fame now, you never know, you might make it. Really guys like that. Troy Polamalu was in the Hall of Fame, but I'm thinking more like the guys that Pete actually recruited, right? Like Reggie Bush was a pretty good player in the NFL, but not never made a Pro Bowl or anything like that. But if you compare that to like the guys who like since Pete, and especially like the guys that Steve Sarkisian recruited, like Sarkisian, Darnold and Juju and Adoree and Leonard Williams, they played for Sarkisian. Uh, I think Leonard probably played for Lane Kiffin too. But these other guys like Drake London and St. Brown and Michael Pittman and um, Hufanga. I think Nwosu I think played for. I think he played for Kiffin too. But Thule, Darnold also would have been. He was a Kiffin recruit. Um, yeah, I mean, a lot of these guys. Especially a receiver. You see, of course, they're known as wide receiver U up there. Between them, Ohio State, and Alabama, they were up there for a while, but now their guys are kind of have the same level. Alabama right now doesn't have any receivers that are as good as Drake London or Amon-Ra St. Brown, right? So really, it's between USC and Ohio State for that moniker. Ohio State has Ekbuka, they have Jackson Smith and Jigma leading the league in receiving. Uh, Terry McLaurin, and sometimes easy to forget that he went there. Marvin Harrison Jr., who's I think probably people back off because he's been okay. And then of course have Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson. They have issues at quarterback, but those are two really good young receivers. So, but this is something that I wanted to mention about SC. Like all the guys they have, they put in the league who are like balling right now. Yeah. So all right, that's it. All right. So before I get out of here, just a reminder to hit that subscribe button next to the Complete Podcast Network, and to follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at TC Pod Network. You can also send feedback and mailback questions to Complete Lakers Podcast at gmail.com. I am out.